He's never fought us. Not us united.
My favorite moment in the entire... Maybe I should complicate this before I start speaking here.
Welcome to Under Two Capes. I'm your host, Jared, and today we are going to talk about the Wonder Woman stories that I want to see in the DCU. In other words, the Diana stories, because we know we're getting the show Paradise Lost about the Amazon. But I want these are the stories that specifically feature Diana that I want to see. First off, so I want to thank you guys for joining me on this episode where we of this show where we talk about any number of Marvel DC content at the listener's request. You request a topic, we cover it. That's the way this works at Comics League. So for Wonder Woman, okay, so this was kind of a difficult topic to be honest, not because it's like emotional or anything like that. It's just because see, the problem with Wonder Woman, and I've said this many times on the show and all the live streams, is that she doesn't have that many character-defining runs as opposed to like Superman or Batman, because everyone has like, okay, Grant Morrison for Batman. Let's see, for Superman, it could be Peter J. Tomasi or anything like that. Everyone has their favorite Superman run, for a Batman run. For Wonder Woman, it's really, for the most part, any of the Greg Rucka stuff, the Gail Simone run and the George Perez run. That's really where that like factors in. So that's really where that goes. Now, here's the thing. Wonder Woman's been through quite a few different versions. The version that was existing where I first came into comics was the New 52. And this was the idea that she was the daughter of Zeus and was in a relationship with Superman. They took a lot of this and adapted it into the DCEU for the Wonder Woman 1 movie, like her tying to the Greek gods, which I always felt was the better like origin as opposed to like the molded from clay, which actually, here's the thing. Either of those is fine with me because either of those works when you're factoring in that she's a character of Greek mythology. And to be perfectly honest with you, there's crazier stuff that happens in Greek mythology. So it really doesn't, that's not one of those things like Superman's trunks or Lois Lane that I'm like, nah, I don't really see that. But so going to Wonder Woman. So first I'm going to talk about what components of the character I think that they should use, and then I'll get into specific stories. I think that now they've done like the warrior who's like isolated from humanity. I still want to do the warrior, but maybe they could also do the period or like the adapt when she was like an ambassador for peace. That way you can get like the dichotomy between like her role as like a warrior on the Justice League, but also a warrior for peace. And you could have like a scene. It doesn't have to be like an entire movie, but a scene doing like UN stuff. Or you could make it a big thing and make it like some kind of what is it? Some kind of like political intrigue movie. That would be very interesting for Wonder Woman. And speaking of political intrigue, you could do the part where she was like in the DEO. I think it was it's one of the government agencies that DC has. Now, the thing about that, and obviously don't necessarily do the final the OMAC project thing where she killed Maxwell Lord. The reason why I say don't do that is because that requires like a lot of setup. This is for like Wonder Woman's first movie in the DCU and how she's going to be portraying the DCU. So far, we know it's going to be Gal Gadot, which, okay, that's fine. I love Gal. She's in my mind the perfect Wonder Woman, so I'm totally fine with that. But and you want to honestly, now they can use in Wonder Woman 1 or Wonder Woman 2, they can bring in Donna Troy or like a Wonder Girl. I think they would do Donna because she's the one that most people know, and that you can kind of have her training Donna and being more of like you could sort of get in the mother quality of Diana, which I think is something that I will say Zack Snyder's Justice League had this really well. But I feel like it would be better if we could show this like her with like Donna or even Cassie, like what they could do, since they're pretty clear that they don't want to do many origin movies. I guarantee you it's gonna be Swamp Thing origin, like, in other words, they're not going to do like Superman origin, a Batman origin. I don't think they would do Wonder Woman origin. I think what they'll do is just start it off where she's in the modern day. In other words, we'll have a modern day Wonder Woman movie, which is fantastic because I was really tired of the DCU EU constantly doing like past Wonder Woman movies. That way, Patty Jenkins can like say, okay, my stuff is not really connected, and I'm like, okay, I get what you're going for, but you're telling the same story over and over again. So I think what they'll do, again, is adapt her and make her like, I think, more of the mother character and more in the modern day, and maybe like, I know Steve Trevor will probably factor in because he's Steve Trevor and he's just there. But let me put it this way, if they're doing the new 52 like continuity, you know where I'm going to land on that. But let's say they don't want to do Superman. They could also do Tom Tresser. I know, but he wasn't really anything. That's the thing about Wonder Woman too. Her romantic interests have not really panned out well in that, okay, she's just there. It's just there. That's the thing about her, like, about her, what's the word? Her romantic interests is that they're just there. And that's one of the issues with Wonder Woman, because Superman was the first one where it was like, okay, it's an actual thing here. But that's neither here nor there. Now let's talk about some Wonder Woman stories, because actually Jay Heat, my boy Jay Heat, brought up an interesting point, because I was bringing up that I'm going to talk about Wonder Woman on this episode of Under Two Capes and what storylines I want to go. And he says, well, Wonder Woman doesn't really have that many like really good stories. She has stories, but not really good ones, like Amazon's Attack. But so I'm going to talk about certain Wonder Woman runs and stories that I have enjoyed. Obviously, take elements from the George Perez run because that is character defining. But I'm saying specific storylines that I think they could work, starting with Wonder Woman: The Lies from Rebirth. Now, here's my idea for this. And I've said this on streams, but so James Gunn's been very clear that Flashpoint is rebooting the universe, right? Okay, so in The Lies, I'm going to briefly summarize basically what's going on here. So this was the storyline that basically tried to give Wonder Woman back her pre-New 52 like continuity and memories. And the basic plot of this book is that Diana is going through sort of an identity crisis, pun intended, where her memories are starting to conflict. What they can do, which has to be really cool, since for right now they're keeping Gal as Wonder Woman, they could have it where the universe resets, but in it's going to be a running plot in Wonder Woman. She still has memories from the Snyderverse, and they conflict with her Gunverse memories, and she kind of has a movie where she has to sort that out. That would be interesting. And that's a new thing that they could do with Wonder Woman, and a new status quo that they could have for the movies. Because that was one of the things I really enjoyed about this particular arc, even though it basically undid all of the New 52. I thought, okay, that's actually really, because I like when they take characters that have had so many stories about them, but find interesting ways to like put these characters in new situations. Because essentially, this isn't a situation where Wonder Woman can just punch her way out of it. In this one, it's like she has to think her way out of it or deal with like the mental trauma of like multiple overlapping memories. That's why I think that could really work, or any of the Rebirth Wonder Woman run, because I have thoroughly enjoyed this run specifically. Next, pre-New 52 Greg Rucka, particularly Hikatea. Not necessarily a whole movie on Hikatea, but maybe a scene in the movie where she has to fight Batman. That's really what I want to go for, because I want to see Wonder Woman and Batman go at it, because that was a really cool part of the book. So basically in Hikatea, so the concept of Hikatea, let me explain that first in Greek myth. It's this idea that, let's say I'm in trouble and I come to you and I invoke Hikatea. What that means is you have to care for me, you have to provide shelter, food, clothing, what have you, and protection. So someone that's fleeing Batman in Gotham runs to, I believe, Washington, D.C. is where she's based out of, because she has the embassy, and basically says, hey, Diana, I need your help. I invoke Hikatea. And Wonder Woman, in keeping with her people, brings the person in. and says, yeah, that's fine. I will protect you. Now, Batman, having an absolute like form of justice, doesn't really care about why this person did what she did. So this person's a killer, not arguably not necessarily murderer, but just a killer. She has killed. You know how Batman's perceived stance on killing. I will be doing a video on the no kill rule that doesn't exist. But anyway, so Wonder Woman has to fight Batman, and that's like one of the coolest things that I saw from that, because it's like, first off, it's Wonder Woman versus Batman. Who doesn't love that? And it's the idea that Wonder Woman would fight against her friends for her beliefs. That is like one of the coolest things. And plus, like this, we've had BVS, but how about WBS? And again, it wouldn't be the entire movie. It would not. It would be like maybe a part of like, all they would have to do, they didn't even have to adapt like the straight up plot of Hikatea. Just do the concept where someone comes fleeing Batman, comes to Wonder Woman, invokes Hikatea, and then Wonder Woman has to fight Batman off. That's it. That's all I have to do. It could be a brief thing, but it's very clear that we would be talking about Hikatea. Then you could do like any of the Wonder Woman stuff from here, because this very much involves like the Greek gods. You have Silver Swan, who could be a fantastic Wonder Woman villain. You have the golden armor that they kind of adapted in 1984, and that's the one praise I will give Wonder Woman 1984, is that they used the golden armor in a cool way when they did use it, because obviously her wings got super like bent up, and then she like shed them, and I was like, the hell is this? But anyway, that's neither here nor there. So that's the basically anything written by Greg Rucka, in addition to George Perez and Gail Simone for Wonder Woman, I think is a very good bet on Wonder Woman stories. So now I'm going to dig into my little chest here and pull out my Wonder Woman 75 box set. Yes, I am a Wonder Woman fan. That's why. And again, they sort of adapted the new 52 Wonder Woman by Azzarello and Cliff Chang, in that the way it works is that Wonder Woman's mother slept with Zeus, had Diana. Diana's Zeus's daughter, and they really link her into the Greek gods and everything. So that's really that obviously inspired the first Wonder Woman movie like a lot, but they could like adapt certain other elements in there as well, like the Amazons being turned into snakes and Hippolyta being turned into a statue. That'd be really cool if they brought that in. Next up is Wonder Woman, The Circle by Gail Simone. And so The Circle, and actually this would tie in with, I was thinking about this today when I was recommending stories. This would tie in with the storyline that they're doing for the Paradise Lost storyline really well, because the basic idea of The Circle is that when Diana was born, there were these like, I think 4 Amazons that pledged themselves to essentially protect. They were essentially Hippolyta's honor guard, and they were going to protect her with their lives. But eventually, so Diana's born, and I forget exactly the details, but then the Circle try and kill the daughter, kill Diana essentially as a baby, because I think they think that there's like a prophecy and that the daughter will bring about destruction on Themyscira or something like that. So what would be interesting is so that could be a part of Paradise Lost, and then Diana, and then essentially at the end of the storyline, they're in prison on Themyscira, and then what they could do is for the Wonder Woman movie, they break out and come to man's world to fight Diana, and that way you could have sort of the Amazons versus Diana in like a Wonder Woman movie, because we haven't had that. That's in a way what Wonder Woman 1984 could have been if they actually cared. So that's beyond the point. But in a very good run that I think could be turned into a movie easily. Next, I'm going to go with Wonder Woman Down to Earth. It's basically this entire box set, because these are like some of the best Wonder Woman stories. Down to Earth is basically, again, you have the component of the ambassadorship, but you also have like Wonder Woman like writing a book about being an Amazon, and then all of a sudden when she kills Maxwell Lord, everyone starts to see her in a different light. I do think that you should have the killing of Maxwell Lord just because. Okay, let me explain. So what happened is pre-Infinite Crisis, like immediately pre-Infinite Crisis, they did a storyline called OMAC, where basically, so back even further. So they did the storyline called Identity Crisis, where Batman eventually, it's a murder mystery, but the end of the story, Batman finds out that like Zatanna and the Justice Leaguers have been wiping people's minds, or I know, wiping supervillains' minds. So to hide, they wipe Batman's mind, and he finds out about it. And so what Batman does is he creates a group of satellites that are supposed to like surveil superhumans forever, pretty much. In other words, it was like a more modern version of Tower Babel. So, surprising no one, the satellite goes full Skynet and starts attacking superheroes and taking them over and turning them into OMACs. What we find out is that this was partially due to the like machinations of Maxwell Lord. Now, who is Maxwell Lord? Back in the when they redid the Justice League, they did like this thing called Justice League International, which is a bunch of international heroes, and then their liaison was someone named Maxwell Lord. Now, Max Lord was a traitor the entire time, killed Blue Beetle, and then did the whole OMAC thing. So Maxwell Lord's ability is that he can mind control people. And in the Superman storyline, which I have right there, which is so good, and that's another storyline I want to see. It's called Superman. Not the Chameleon of Atlas. Where is it? It's called Superman. Anyway. Oh, yeah. It's called Superman Sacrifice. So in Sacrifice, Superman starts having these blackouts. Like he's like, and it's like he's what essentially happens is that he not really blackouts, but hallucinations. It's like he'll see like essentially Darkseid, but he's really fighting Batman. And he's like, what is going on? So then he, at one point at the end of the storyline, he gets under the control of Maxwell Lord. That's why he's having those hallucinations. So essentially, it's Wonder Woman versus Superman, which is so dope. It's such a great fight scene, and it's Man of Steel quality great fight scenes. So Wonder Woman gets her lasso around Maxwell Lord and basically goes, release Superman. And he goes, no, I won't. Actually, Wonder Woman asks him, what do I have to do to get you to release Superman? And then Maxwell Lord just says two words, kill me. And then Wonder Woman just simply snaps the dude's neck and kills him. And just he drops to the ground, and Superman snaps out of it just in time to see this. Now, the part that I wouldn't adapt is the out-of-character treatment to Wonder Woman by Superman and Batman. Because here's the thing about it. Here's my problem with that storyline. That particular factor. Because they make it out in that storyline that after she kills Maxwell Lord, Batman and Superman want nothing to do with Wonder Woman. Okay, here's the problem with that. And by that, they want nothing to do with her because she broke their non-existent, non-killing rule. I'll explain in a future video why it's non-existent. But anyway. So the reason why that's unrealistic is, first off, they've been friends with Wonder Woman for decades. I think they would trust her. Second off, Maxwell Lord was mind controlling Superman. Okay, Batman specifically should be like, no, you're good. The dude that made contingency plans on the off chance that the Justice League turns evil is lecturing Wonder Woman because she had to take a life because that life was A, mind controlling the most powerful being in the DC, the most powerful being on Earth, and second off, was under the lasso of truth that the only way you'll get Superman free is if you kill me, because he'll say, okay, so you'll knock me out. I'll just mind control him again. So there was no way out of this, and then Batman's like, get out. And Superman's like, I don't know you anymore. And I'm like, guys, Batman specifically should be like, okay, I get what, I may not like that you had to kill him, but I get why you did it. I'm like, Batman, you suck, dude. That's what astounds me about that storyline. It just makes no sense. Now, the people's reaction to Wonder Woman was cool because the people completely rejected Wonder Woman at that point, and that's when she became a secret agent and sort of adapted the secret identity of Diana Prince, who's basically an agent in the organization that's hunting Wonder Woman. So that's what that factors in. Now, what's interesting, that's not necessarily how I would adapt the secret agent thing. I would just do the agent. What they could do, what would be pretty interesting, is they could have it where they haven't introduced Wonder Woman yet, but she's in like a post-credit scene, or like essentially they introduce her in a post-credit scene, like in someone else's movie, kind of like they do with BVS. What they do is that they have this Agent Diana Prince that shows up places. Everyone immediately knows it's Wonder Woman, but it's Gal Gadot and everything, and she's like a liaison to the government. And then like in a battle scene that's going against like maybe Superman or Batman, all of a sudden Diana Prince shows up, twirls, becomes Wonder Woman, and helps out. That would be pretty cool. Now, all right. Nick from the Phoenix Press, my brother from another mother, he had a fantastic idea. At the time, I was like, nah, but now I think about it, it's a great idea. And Nick, if you are watching this, great idea. So remember the period, hear me out. Remember the period where Wonder Woman was like running a boutique store, essentially, when they took away her powers, made her a martial artist? All right, bear with me on this. What if they did that? Now, bear with me. I know. Immediately, everyone's typing, no, hell no. All right, so bear with me on this. What if, okay, the universe resets, but there's no Wonder Woman yet because she doesn't know she's Wonder Woman. In other words, it's Gal Gadot. She doesn't have to necessarily run a boutique store or anything like that. It's like she does a job other than that, but she doesn't remember she's Wonder Woman. That's kind of adapting my idea of like an identity crisis, but it's taking it to the extreme. Like she doesn't know she's Wonder Woman. And then at a certain point, like one of the gods intervenes and restores her memories, and then she realizes that she is Wonder Woman. That would be again, Nick, if you're watching this, great job, or listening to this on audio, great job. That is actually a fantastic idea. That would be a fantastic Wonder Woman movie. They could call it Wonder Woman Identity Crisis or Wonder Woman Truth. So that's another thing that I think could be really interesting, because here's the thing. Too many times superhero movies turn into punch fests, which and I get it. There's an audience for that, and a lot of them do it creatively, like the Snyderverse. But with this, it puts them also in, and that's a psychological component, because I think what's interesting is when you put these characters in psychologically challenging scenarios, because obviously they're going to survive and like triumph. But what this does is it shows that in addition to being strong in body and powers, they're strong in mind too, and spirit. And that defines a superhero right there. That's why Batman is a superhero. Take away his gadgets, and he's still going to be able to be Batman and be the badass that we know he is, because he has that human spirit. He has that determination. And that's what these movies could do. Which I think that James Gunn knows this based upon the movies that he's picking. So another component of Wonder Woman that I think could be adapted, again, is Superman Wonder Woman. Why is that? Not just because I like the parent. Because when you see that storyline, particularly if they go with a more warrior Wonder Woman, this challenge from many different ways. Okay, so in that storyline, okay, Superman and Wonder Woman are dating. It's around Christmas time. Now you see Wonder Woman having to learn how to be like a girlfriend and how to get what Christmas is all about and stuff, and how to like get a present, because she's never had to do that. That sounds really minor, right? Okay, that's like a sort of subplot. But the real subplot between these two is that, okay, so you have Superman, who lives with the secret identity of being Clark Kent. That's part of his character, Bendis. I have to say that. But anyway, then you have Wonder Woman, who's used to who doesn't do a secret identity. In fact, Superman has to teach her that in the Justice League run, which is fantastic by Jeff Johns. But anyway, Superman has to teach her how to do that. And she's not used to having to hide part of herself from the world. And so that's part of like this relationship that weighs on her, because it's like she goes essentially to Themyscira to talk to the statue of her mother. And she goes, okay, he's one of the best men I know. He's fantastic. But I don't know if I can she says, I don't know if I can be with him if I can't. Because the idea is that they want to keep their relationship a secret, but Wonder Woman hates secrets. Eventually, she realizes that, yeah, we kind of have to do that, and we're better together. So I think that would be a great, first off, team up movie, and that would also be great movies to develop the Superman and Wonder Woman characters, because they teach each other a lot in that book. That's the main reason why I love that series so much, because what it does to Superman and Wonder Woman, and it really adds to their characters in new and exciting ways. So another component that I would adapt, another again, I would like to see like a Wonder Woman and the Wonder Girls series, or like movie or series. Basically, it's her training like Donna and then like Cassie, or maybe just it's a Wonder Girls series where it's Donna, Cassie, and Yara teaming up to like solve some particular like incident, if you will. It doesn't have to be like a big multiversal ending threat. Just like them bonding, because they're all Wonder Girls and they all have to like come to terms with the idea that like they're all like basically handed down that mantle. In other words, I mean, Donna Troy has kind of become her own superhero, and she's one of my favorite characters. But essentially, it's that. Another thing that I really want to see. This is really more than Wonder Woman, but it's kind of is a Trinity movie, because again, DC has the three most popular superheroes of all time: Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman. These are the most iconic superheroes. Granted, some are more, and in the movies more than the comics, Wonder Woman. But what we never got to see, and I think we would have gotten to see if the Snyderverse had been able to continue, and we could very well see in this new continuity, them hanging out and like solving things together. Because they actually have many series where it's the Trinity just hanging out. It's just called Trinity. They had one with Rebirth, written by Francis Manapul, which is fantastic. Because first off, it's Francis freaking Manapul. That dude can write and draw fantastically. And then they also had some series by, I think Tomasi did Trinity at one point. I don't think they did one in the new 52, which I think is a wasted opportunity. That could have been really cool. But they did one in the post-crisis continuity, which again, I enjoyed Trinity a lot because, and I said this when I was talking to a friend of mine who's like a fan of the Trinity as well. And one of the things that we said, that the reason why Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman, the Trinity, are my favorite superheroes of all time, because all three of them represent the three essential characteristics of being a superhero. Okay, so let me explain. All right, Superman represents the hopeful optimism component of being a superhero. And by the way, it was my friend with enough prep time, so I'll give him a shout out on this video. So Wonder Woman, so Superman represents the hopeful component of being a superhero, the hopeful optimism. Batman represents sort of the realistic and sort of, I would say, determination of a superhero. Because look what this guy goes through on a daily basis. He's fighting Darkseid. He's getting thrown back in time. He's constantly dealing with the trauma of losing his parents. His city gets taken over every book. And he's working with veritable gods. And yet he still continues. Nothing has broken Batman. Again, human, human-like determination. And also the humanity of a superhero. And Wonder Woman represents sort of the truth of being a superhero, the being truthful, but it's also really the compassionate side of being a superhero, which Superman has that too, but I think Wonder Woman really defines that. And I think a movie that highlights those three qualities of being a superhero would be a original superhero movie, because I don't think Marvel did that, and I wish they had. But here's the thing: Marvel doesn't really have a Trinity in the same way DC does, because the Trinity in DC are those three characters that define the three components of being a superhero. First off, Marvel doesn't really have three characters that are the Trinity. You can argue it's Thor, Captain America, and Hulk. I mean, Thor, Captain America, and Iron Man. But those three don't necessarily represent what being a superhero is. Captain America does, absolutely. But Thor, no. And maybe Tony kind of does with the human ingenuity, but it's not like there are three heroes that perfectly encapsulate that component of being a superhero. But so going back to what I was saying, because a Trinity movie, you can have like you can have those debates among the characters, like if they're dealing with threat. Batman's more of the practical one. Wonder Woman's more of the with compassion. Still use force because she's a warrior and all that stuff. And then Superman is more like the hopeful optimism, like we can do it. You can have a movie that perfectly uses all those characteristics to basically show, hey, here's who a superhero is. Because really, when you think about it, the Trinity and really the Justice League in general are the examples of what superheroes are meant to be. That's why it's a big deal to be on the Justice League, as opposed to the Avengers, where they'll let anyone with powers on. Tell me I'm wrong. There are characters that have never been on the Justice League, but every Marvel superhero at some point has been on the Avengers. At that point, it loses the value. So anyway, this isn't a Marvel rant. So a Trinity movie works so well for if you want to have this universe be a little more hopeful optimism, but you can have essentially these different viewpoints coming in, because part of the Snyderverse, that was the appeal, and one part of the reason why I love it is because it was a more realistic take on superheroes. There wouldn't be necessarily always always optimistic like this, but you could have that debate in the Trinity movie by having Batman be like the kind of pessimistic dark character, and Superman and Wonder Woman being the more optimistic character. And you can have some situations where Batman's right and the other two are wrong, or the other two are right and Batman's wrong. So it leads to some very fascinating story opportunities. My next Wonder Woman story, moving on, is actually, this is a pretty obvious one. I mentioned the George Perez run, but can we use at least the George Perez origin, where essentially what happens is that's okay, Steve Trevor crashes, they do the whole Steve Trevor thing, but they also link her to the Greek gods. Because I think part of the appeal of Wonder Woman is because I believe that, like, majority of people, they love like Greek myth and Greek mythology. Because when you think about it, the superheroes that we read about, that's essentially our version of Greek myth. They're essentially our like mythological characters. Granted, we don't worship them like gods, but essentially that's our mythology. That's why I think a lot of people like Greek gods and Greek myth in that. And if you tie that together with a character that's so obviously linked to Greek myth, which is why I love the Wonder Woman 1 movie, because they definitely threw that in there really well. They linked her to the Greek pantheon. Granted, I don't think they did like the final battle well enough. I think they could better, but that's besides the point. And I think that the way George Perez did in the comics, R.I.P., was fantastic. And again, that's the one run that I can mention with Wonder Woman, and everyone will go, okay, yes, that is fantastic. That is the character-defining Wonder Woman run. Which, okay, at least she has a run that is defining of her character. So I'm like, okay. But anyway, back to the programming. So those are the storylines for Wonder Woman that I think could work really well for the DCU. Now, what do I think they're going to do with Wonder Woman? Realistically, here's the way I could see this playing out. Here's my game plan. I think Wonder Woman 1, the new Wonder Woman 1, since it's taking place after Flashpoint, they're going to completely wipe away, at the very least, 1984. At the most, everything, and just start over. It depends on like where, like, let's say Paradise Lost leaves the Wonder Woman mythos, because remember, that's taking place before Wonder Woman's birth. So that's really important there. I think that's a great idea for Game of Thrones, because if there's any group that fits the Game of Thrones archetype, it's the Amazons. But my point is, depending on how they leave it, they could leave Wonder Woman 1 as canon and just change some elements, but just say she showed up in World War I, did some stuff, and stuck around, except that they can keep in that she hung out and helped people. Excuse me. So essentially, I think they're going to canonize parts of the other movies. In other words, keep parts of it, but get rid of other parts. Excuse me. And James Gunn's been clear on that he's keeping some parts are rebooting, some parts aren't, which I'm like, okay. Which, once again, I still have my theory on the Superman thing, but okay. But my point is for Wonder Woman is that's what I think he's going for. So depending on how he leaves it. Okay, so let's say he keeps Wonder Woman 1 and gets rid of Wonder Woman 2. That's the least I think he's going to do, the least. Now, what I think they could keep it, except they could show her helping in World War II as well. It's just more helping from like then they kind of did that. But actually, they could just have her like essentially show her fighting World War I. In other words, humanity knows that superheroes exist. That's the first retcon that they can really hammer in there, and have Wonder Woman be the first superhero. And there you go. And then eventually, you could say, in other words, you don't necessarily have to do a Wonder Woman origin for her first movie in the DCU. What you could just do It's like adapt like the ambassador thing, and she's just there being an ambassador. She just doesn't dress up as Wonder Woman until like a Justice League threat or like her solo movie. When you still have Gal Gadot show up in other people's movies, and then she becomes Wonder Woman in a future movie. That's essentially what I'm going for. So that's the first thing I think they could do. If they can't decanonize both, they could still go with my thing, except that the Wonder Woman movie would probably take place in the modern day. In other words, Steve Trevor is like a Navy SEAL, like they did in Rebirth, which I like. That was very cool. And he crash lands on Themyscira's coast, or he's like a modern day fighter pilot, crash lands, and then essentially what would happen is he arrives on Themyscira, brings Diana with him to the modern world, and you could actually have a good scene. You could have Superman and like you could have a few of the Justice Leaguers show up in the movie, and then she thinks they're actual gods because there's like superhumans and stuff, and she hasn't like. At this point, if she's coming to Earth she's coming to man's world for the first time, she wouldn't necessarily be as familiar with the concept of a metahuman as opposed to a god. So she would essentially think like Superman's like the descendant of Zeus or something like that. And he's like, no, I'm not a god. They could kind of do a play on the Captain America line from Avengers where he goes, "There's only one god, ma'am, and I'm pretty sure he doesn't dress like that guy." That'd be really cool. I would love that. So another thing they could do, which would be very cool. It would be really funny if they do the Flashpoint Wonder Woman arc where it's like Aquaman and Diana go to war. Probably not going to do that because that would require even more reshoots on Flash, which I get the feeling at this point they're just like, damn movie. I think that's where they're going for. So, but I was going to say if they wanted to, if they weren't going to do that, they could at least adopt the component that is the Wonder Woman versus Arthur thing, because that was like one of the coolest parts of Flashpoint. And you can also get rid of Amber Heard that way. There you go. But what you could also do is essentially, let's see, what else? I could see as another component, another way of doing Wonder Woman is maybe, okay, what they could do. Let's say Gal Gadot eventually realizes that she doesn't want to play Wonder Woman anymore. Like essentially she's at the end of her run, because let's say she only has one more movie in her and then she's like, you know what, I want to move on to other pastures. What they could do is at the end of that movie, she hands the mantle off to like Donna or Cassie, because both Donna and Yara, Donna, Cassie, or Yara, because all three of those women have been Wonder Woman at some point. Granted, Cassie was in like the deceased universe, but you get my point in that you could pass it on to, and that's how you get your younger Wonder Woman, is that one of the like sidekicks levels up, kind of in use gaming terms. That's how you can like have like the mantle to like, if you want to like replace with a younger actor, there you go, do that. Although granted, they're not doing a Superman, but with Superman, I think this is my like elaborate theory, is that they're just using this movie to like get a new origin for Henry Cavill, and then they're going to bring Cavill back. That would be my theory. I think that that's very realistic, depending on how good these other movies do. But that's beside the point. I'm not going to go into that. But now, so that's the other like component that I think could work well with Diana, is her passing the mantle off when Gal is done playing Wonder Woman, because that way you don't have to do another reboot and or you don't have to really confuse fans by saying, okay, Gal's not Wonder Woman anymore, just find someone else to play Diana. Just having at the end of Wonder Woman 3, let's say she only does one more movie. At the end of Wonder Woman 3, you would just have her hand the mantle off, saying, I have to go back to Themyscira and be queen, or I have to go full-time and be an ambassador, or something like that. And then have the either it's Donna, Yara, or Cassie become the new Wonder Woman, essentially. Or you could have like Donna becomes Wonder Woman, Cassie becomes the ambassador, or the other way around. Because they kind of did that in Young Justice, where they had Diana on the Justice, but Donna the ambassador to the UN. So that's another way they could do that. In other words, I'm thinking of all these different like story opportunities that they can use all these components that already exist in the comics in order to explain all these changes. And there's one thing that, and it's realistic, because if there's one thing that James Gunn has shown me so far, is that he reads the comics. So he knows all these like these ways out, if you will, exist. So it's really easy for him to explain all this easily for the audience to understand, because and then you can get like more people to become fans of Donna. You can use the if you're respectful of it. That's the key. Because a lot of the times with mantle swaps, they aren't respectful. Like they'll have like Iron Man get like knocked out by Captain Marvel, then Riri takes over. Or you'll have Sam was a little bit more respectful, I think. Captain Marvel, they just I don't know, changed her. But anyway, my point is, if you're respectful and you do it well enough and you write it well enough, I think that the movie-going fan audience would be fine with Donna taking over as Wonder Woman. And there is essentially comics precedent for that. You could actually legit be her because what happened is, all right, in the OMAC storyline, after she kills Superman, that'd be cool. She kills Maxwell Lord, and then she steps away from being Wonder Woman and goes on the run. But she essentially becomes Diana Prince and like has a secret identity, and she still becomes Wonder Woman. But my point is, the public Wonder Woman is Donna Troy. That's what they could do. That they could. I'm not sure if they would do Diana killing Maxwell Lord for that, because that worked very well for Man of Steel. But I mean, I'm just saying the precedent exists. The comic exists for that. That's what I'm saying. And they could do it. I would like to see a legit good Maxwell Lord as opposed to 1984. I know Nerdette teased me on that when I had her on last episode. But that's really a comics accurate way to do the mantle swap. Or you could just do it where like she shows up, they have an adventure, and at the end of the adventure, Wonder Woman kind of hints throughout the movie that she wants to like go back to Themyscira and rule as queen, or like she has to. There's like something going on with Themyscira. Like maybe they do the whole Cersei turns Hippolyta into a statue, but doesn't turn the Amazons into snakes, and then Diana has to replace her mother as queen. They kind of did that in the New 52, essentially. So that's a way that they could do it. In other words, what I'm saying. So that's where I'm going to leave this topic. This was a really fun topic to talk about. Drop in the comments, by the way, what storylines that you would want to see from Wonder Woman. What parts of her character do you think should be highlighted? If you're excited that Gal is as far as we know, Gal is still going to be Wonder Woman. Thank God. But again, drop in the comments your thoughts, your suggestions on stories that on Wonder Woman stories, or stories that feature Wonder Woman that you think could work well in a DCU movie, particularly with everything else being announced. And theorize. Let me give you guys a challenge. When you come up with like an idea on a Wonder Woman movie, try to link it to Paradise Lost and see how like Paradise Lost could lead into your idea, in other words. So anyway, that's what I'm going to leave it. As for this coming week of content, my video coming out to at the time. So this will be out on Sunday. So tomorrow on Monday, we'll be coming out with a video talking about. I'm debating on whether to do the in-depth collection tour. In other words, where I go into my comic books and talk about like all my favorites. So basically, go in depth on my collection, or I could do essentially fast track the video on the no killing rule and why it doesn't work in universe. I get why, as a business, DC doesn't want to kill off their top characters that sell books, but I'm saying in universe why it doesn't make sense. So you guys can decide that too. Drop in the comments which one you would want to see. So on that note, stay heroic, everyone. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. I have a blast talking about Wonder Woman every time. She's one of these characters that need. And have a great week, everyone.